You could lead them.
It has to be you. You inspired them to build this place, to believe in something. You have to help them grieve, to move on, to end this. You owe them that. Those people need King Ezekiel.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and analyzing Season 8, Episode 6 of The Walking Dead as I compare it to its comic book counterpart. With that being said, warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to Episode 806, along with issues 118, 119, 127, and at the end 141 of the comics, and let's jump right into this. So first off, Jesus taking prisoners is original to the show, as he just sadly killed them all alongside Rick at the outpost in the comics. Jesus has always been the type of person to keep peace between groups on the show, so it makes sense that he would take this type of moral compass role. Taking prisoners of war adds another layer of depth to the question of what is good and bad, along with who can be redeemed and who is too far gone. I enjoy how they added this aspect to the show. I just hope that it doesn't start to drag on too much. Next up, I wanted to discuss what will probably be the meat and potatoes of this comparison, the entire Ezekiel and Carol scene near the end of the episode. Now, we've been predicting this ever since Season 7 when Carol started to take over Michonne's roles from the comics, but now it's finally coming to fruition. In the comics, Carol died way back at the prison, and so Michonne is the one to call out Ezekiel on his bullshit here, eventually leading to a friendship and romantic relationship between the two ever since what would have been Season 7 of the show. Now, on the show, Carol has been set up to be Ezekiel's supporting character ever since around that time, although they haven't actually gotten romantic whatsoever yet. Now, this is a slight digression, but in my opinion, Michonne is way more sexual in the comics, so it makes far more sense for her character, but it isn't necessary for Carol on the show. If they decide to couple Carol up with Ezekiel, then fine, but if not, I'm still rooting for Daryl and Carol, but that's just me. Anyways, in the comics during issue 118, we saw Ezekiel lose all of his men against a battle with the Savior Outpost, which I compared to my 804 video on the channel. But then in issue 119, we see the continuation of this as Michonne attempts to kind of comfort Ezekiel. In the show, Carol does the same thing, although she's less rude than Michonne was in the comics, because during issue 119, the conversation begins with Ezekiel feeling extremely guilty and sorry for himself. He continues to say things that will make himself feel worse, such as explaining how all of his men were staring right into his eyes saying, "What do I do?" as they were gunned down right in front of him. He goes on to mention Shiva and more about what do I do, just kind of crying to himself, and although Michonne does feel bad for him at first, she kind of has had enough of his weeping and she literally punches him in the face. Ezekiel, still crying and now confused, starts asking what and why, to which Michonne tells him that if he's already this much of a pussy, he should do what he does best and act like he isn't. Now, with that all being said, Carol pretty much brings across the same message, except, as I said, without being so rude. TV show Carol and comic book Michonne are two very different characters. It's just this one particular instance where Carol has taken Michonne's role here from the comics, as Michonne is with Rick in the show.
Those people need King Ezekiel. And if you can't be the king, then do what you do best and play the part. I have to act every day. It used to bother me, but this is who I am, and I am still standing. You just have to act like everything is normal until it is. It's what they need, and it's what you have to give them.
Now, the way Ezekiel's actor, Carrie Payton, portrayed Ezekiel's crushed spirit in episode 806 was just brilliant, and the scene definitely worked. You could just tell how broken he was, regardless of what Carol said to him. In my opinion, I enjoyed it more than Michonne's in the comics, as she basically just rolled her eyes at him instead of actually comforting him. Carol was more focused to point out that his people needed him, and that what he was doing was good, and that he needed to keep doing it. Once again, I enjoy how recreating scenes on the TV show gives them a chance to expand upon it and make it better, and this is a great example of it. Moving on, although we've had the introduction of Sadiq ever since the Season 8 premiere, this episode is where we see Carl elaborate on it as he goes out searching for him. Sadiq is a comic book character from after All Out War that gets introduced early in the show. They did this with the Oceanside last season, and it seems like they're doing it with Sadiq as well. In the comics, he was just sorta there in the New Beginning as he joined with the communities during the time skip. Here we actually get to see his introduction, as Carl is the one to take the effort to go out and search for him. I love it when they mix things up from the comics, as I pretty much just said, along with extending a character's introduction or story in general, but we'll just have to wait and see how similar they make Sadiq compared to his comic book counterpart during future seasons. Jadis and the Junkyard Group are completely original to the show, along with Rick getting captured. In the comics, Rick never took picture proof of the Saviors getting destroyed because he had no one else to try and recruit. In the show, there are more communities such as the Junkyard Group and Oceanside, so we'll just have to wait and see how they jump into the mix. Also, Rosita, Michonne, Tara, and Daryl going rogue are original to the show as well. It's just that with so many characters on the show, I assume they had troubles of thinking of what these characters should be doing instead of just sitting around for the first half of the entire season, so they decided to add in this little adventure as well. Now this is sort of a loose foreshadow, but it's apparent enough that I figured I should discuss what I'm about to mention next in this video. It does involve potential spoilers for a certain character death after the war with Negan, so warning of spoilers. Now, Gregory mentions the gallows to Maggie this episode, which is used to hang people. In the comics, after Gregory crosses the line far too many times, including trying to poison Maggie and take over the hilltop, Maggie ends this battle by hanging him on a tree at the hilltop. So, is Gregory mentioning the gallows foreshadowing his own death? This may happen if he doesn't learn his lesson to watch what he says, because in episode 806, mouthing off to Maggie led her to lock him up with the rest of the Saviors. Now, as I said, this really seems like a loose foreshadow, but I saw enough people discussing it online that I felt it was worth bringing up. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. Is there anything I missed? Leave any thoughts or theories down in the comments section below. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, or even subscribe for more Walking Dead Season 8 content in the near future. If you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, consider checking out my Patreon, where there's a bunch of different rewards involved in the channel. Now, it's not necessary, but it could really help in the long run, as some of these videos do take a while, especially the ones involving the comics. But as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.